Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari. Gopi Jan Balaba Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Brajjana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajjana Ranjana. Jamuna Tirtha Vanachari. Jamuna Tirtha Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Balaba Girivaradari. Yashoda Nandana Vrajjana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Vrajjana Ranjana. Jamuna Tirtha Vanachari. Jamuna Tirtha Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hey Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paragraj Acharya Ashtatala Satashi Śrīmad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Ki Jayanitai Go Premanandi. All glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, and all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Narayanam namaskritya naram cheva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Om namo bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 15, chapter entitled Parashuram, the Lord's Warrior Incarnation, text number 11. Prasadita Satchavatya Maivambur iti Bhargava Atatahi bhavet potro Jamadagnis tato bhavat Prasadita Satchavatya Maivambur iti Bhargava Atatahi bhavet potro Jamadagnis tato bhavat Prasadita Satchavatya Maivambur iti Bhargava Atatahi bhavet potro Jamadagnis tato bhavat Prasadita, pacified. Satchavatya, by Satchavati. Ma, not. Evam, thus. Bu, let it be. Iti, thus. Bhargava, the great sage. Ata, if your son should not become like that. Tahi, then. Bhavet, should become like that. Potra, the grandson. Jamadagni, Tata, thereafter. Abhavat, was born. Translation and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīmad Prabhupada. Satchavati, however, pacified Rekha Muni with peaceful words and requested that her son not be like a fierce Kshatriya. Rekha Muni replied, then your grandson will be of a Kshatriya spirit. Thus Jamadagni was born as the son of Satchavati. Translation responsively. Satchavati, however, pacified Rekha Muni with peaceful words and requested that her son not be like a fierce Kshatriya. Rekha Muni replied, then your grandson will be of a Kshatriya spirit. Thus Jamadagni was born as the son of Satchavati. Purport. The great sage, Rekha, was very angry, but somehow or other Satchavati pacified him. And at her request he changed his mind. It is indicated here that the son of Jamadagni would be born as Parashurama. Text 12 and 13. Satyavati later became the sacred river Kaushiki to purify the entire world, and her son Jamadagni married Renuka, the daughter of Renu, by the semen of Jamadagni. Many sons headed by Vasuman were born from the womb of Renuka. The youngest of them was named Rama, or Parashurama. Text 14. Learned scholars accept this Parashurama as the celebrated incarnation of Vasudeva, who annihilated the dynasty of Kartavirya. Parashurama killed all the Kshatriyas on earth 21 times. Text 15. When the royal dynasty, being excessively proud because of the material modes of passion and ignorance, became irreligious and ceased to care for the laws enacted by the Brahmanas, Parashurama killed them. Although their offense was not very severe, he killed them to lessen the burden of the world. Purport. The Kshatriyas, or the ruling class, must govern the world in accordance with the rules and regulations enacted by great Brahmanas and saintly persons. As soon as the ruling class becomes irresponsible in regard to the religious principles, it becomes a burden on the earth. As stated here, Rajas Tamo Vritam Param Abramanyam. When the ruling class is influenced by the lower modes of nature, namely ignorance and passion, it becomes a burden to the world and must be annihilated by superior power. We actually see from modern history that monarchies have been abolished by various revolutions. But unfortunately, the monarchies have been abolished to establish the supremacy of third-class and fourth-class men. Although monarchies overpowered by the modes of passion and ignorance have been abolished in the world, the inhabitants of the world are still unhappy. For although the qualities of the former monarchs were degraded by taints of ignorance, these monarchs have been replaced by by men of the mercantile and worker class, whose qualities are even more degraded. When the government is actually guided by Brahmanas or God-conscious men, then there can be real happiness for the people. Therefore, in previous times, when the ruling class was degraded to the mode of passion and ignorance, the Brahmanas, headed by such a Kshatriya spirited Brahmana as Parashurama, killed them 21 consecutive times. In Kali Yuga, as stated in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 12-13, Dasya Prayeshu Rajasu, the ruling class, Rajanya, will be no better than plunderers, Dashus, because the third class and fourth class men will monopolize the affairs of the government, ignoring the religious principles and Brahminical rules and regulations. They will certainly try to plunder the riches of the citizens without consideration. As stated elsewhere in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam 12.140, being unpurified, neglecting to discharge human duties properly, and being influenced by the modes of passion, rajas, and ignorance, tamas, unclean people, malechas, posing as members of the government, will swallow the citizens and instill another place. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam says, human society is naturally grouped into 4 divisions, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvanyam maya shrishtam gunakama vibhagashaha. But if the system is neglected and the qualities and divisions of society are not considered, the result will be Brahmavit, Shatra, Shudranam, Yo, Bali, Bhavita, Nripa. The so-called caste system of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra will be meaningless. As a result, whoever somehow or other becomes powerful will be the king or president, and thus the prajas or citizens will be will be so harassed that they will give up hearth and home and will go to the forest. Yashanti giri hananam. To escape harassment by government officials and who have no mercy and are addicted to the ways of plunderers. Therefore, the prajas, or the people in general, must take to the Krishna consciousness movement, the Hare Krishna movement, which is the sound incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kali Kali Nama Rupe Krishna Avatar. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has now appeared as an incarnation by the holy name. Therefore, when the prajas become Krishna conscious, they can then expect a good government and good society, a perfect life, and liberation from the bondage of material existence. Amagyan Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swa Patantikam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the Bhagavad Gita is spoken in very terse language. So it's very concise, condensed. The Bhagavad Gita is actually the essence of the whole Vedas. Right? All Vedic knowledge is within Bhagavad Gita. So it's the essence of everything. And the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is the extension or the explanation of the Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavad Gita is spoken very concisely. Right? So it's only 700 verses. Krishna only had a limited amount of time. So he's just spoken very concisely. And then it is elaborated upon in Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam is Purana, which means the historical narratives. And actually, Jiva Goswami points out, because the Vedas are divided into two categories. There's Shruti and Smriti. So Shruti is the sound vibration ultimately emanating from the Lord himself, the philosophy, like the Upanishads. Right? The Upanishads mostly don't have storyline, like Sri Upanishad, just philosophy, same as Gita, Gita Upanishad, right? It's just philosophy. So it's emanating from the Lord himself, and it's just a philosophical description. So that's the Shruti. That's the original Veda. And then you have the corollaries of the Vedas, the Puranas, which are the historical narratives, the Itihasas, which means like the histories, the Puranas, 18 major, 18 minor, and these historical explanations of the philosophy of the Vedas. In Kali Yuga, Jiva Goswami says the Puranas are more important than the Shruti. So in other words, the Smriti is more important than the Shruti, even though the Shruti is the origin and the Puranas are elaborating upon them, but it is considered more important. Just like the Mahabharata, which is an itihasa, which is a historical narrative, it is said to be the fifth Veda. We have the four Vedas, Jajur, Artava, Rig, and Samaveda, right? And then the fifth Veda is said to be Mahabharata. It's like the explanation. Mahabharata has many wonderful instructions. Prabhupada actually wanted to translate Mahabharata, but he didn't have unlimited time. But he actually spoke about it. And he said at one point, he said, if I can just give ISKCON to my disciples to run, to manage, I can just go and translate. And that never happened. Prabhupada was organizing everything all the way till 1977. So the Puranas, and that's why the Bhagavatam, the Puranas are important in Kali Yuga because they're in story form, right? And it's much easier for people to remember something and ingest something when it's in a story. So we tell the story of Dhruva Maharaj or Prahlad Maharaj. It says in Chaitanya Bhagavat that Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya, would hear from Gadadhar Pandit the Bhagavatam every day while he was staying in Puri. And because Gadadhar is the incarnation of Radha, so who is the best person to teach us Bhagavatam? It's Radha Rani herself. So Gadadhar was teaching or speaking Bhagavatam every day to Mahaprabhu. And it says in Chaitanya Bhagavat that they would, Lord Chaitanya would listen to the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj hundreds of times. Again and again and again. It's always fresh. It's always fresh. We know that. It's always fresh. Krishna actually got a benediction from Sandipani Muni that whatever he spoke would always be fresh. So that's why it is like that. I mean, Krishna is supreme. He doesn't need anyone's benediction. But when you read, and I was speaking to Bharujan Prabhu the other day, and he's hopefully writing he's written commentaries on Gita, Surrender Unto Me, and then Bhagavatam. And I said, are you going to finish the one on the Chaitanya Charitamrita? He said, hopefully. Yeah, he's writing. So we're hoping that will come out. And he said, I write it, and then I go back later, and he said, then there's more, because it's always fresh. So when do you stop? Because every time you read, you get more realizations. So it's like, then write down more realizations, and then more and more. Even Prabhupada read his books. Actually, just this morning, I'm listening to Kesava Maharaj speak. And Kesava Maharaj made this point. He said sometimes he listens to his own lectures, right? And he said, well, someone might say, that's egotistical. You listen to your own lectures. But he said, sometimes I listen and I think, wow, did I say that? Because Krishna is inspiring the devotees. Sometimes Paramatma brings things out which are very inspirational. So even Prabhupada would read his own books. So you could say, well, that's egotistical, he's reading his own books. No, because Prabhupada actually said, Krishna is dictating to me. So and that's what it's like. For a devotee, when we give class sometimes, you feel like Krishna is inspiring, And sometimes you give class, you're planning to go one way and it just starts going off in another direction. And then you're listening to yourself speak and you think, well, it sounds okay, so we'll just keep going that way. Because Krishna is inspiring you to go in a particular direction. That's why we pray in the beginning of the class to get the Acharya's mercy so that they can come through us, the Guru's mercy, and the Lord's mercy so it can come through us so we can speak something. So sometimes the inspiration will come and we'll speak in a particular direction. So the Puranas are spoken in, the Bhagavatam is spoken in such a way that it's in historic. Purana means ancient. That's one translation of Purana, ancient. So it's ancient narratives or stories remembered by great sages like Narada and so forth. They remember the old stories and then they speak them and then they're written down and then now we have Bhagavatam. And I was listening to Devi Shakti Mataji recently, and she's doing an excellent series. She's been doing it for about 3 years on Srila Prabhupada, on the Lilamrita. Has anyone listened to it? It's next level. If you want to hear Prabhupada Katha, it's the most well-researched presentation on Prabhupada Lilamrita I've ever. Something we can consider, because we're talking about that, right? So yeah. Because it's amazing. And she actually said, because Prabhupada had one disciple before he came to the West. What was his name? Do you remember? Acharya? Yeah, it was like that. Acharya. Yeah, like that. Yeah, so he had one disciple, and apparently he wrote some memoirs about Prabhupada, some remembrances about Prabhupada. And he said Prabhupada told him about several dreams that he had. And in one of the dreams, I hadn't heard this before, Krishna came to Prabhupada with the Bhagavad Gita in one hand and Bhagavatam in the other hand. And he said, if you take these two books to the West, your mission will be successful. Because Prabhupada could have translated many things. He could have brought Jaiva Dharma. You know, in the Gaudiya Math, there's a big emphasis on Jaiva Dharma, which is, you know, Bhaktivedanta calls one of his works. You know, many books that Prabhupada could have translated, but he chose those two specifically. You know, Gita and Bhagavatam, right? And, you know, Chaitanya Charitamrita and Nectar of Devotion. You know, these are like the pillars. But he brought these books because these books, Prabhupada said, if we base everything on the teachings of these books, we will be successful in our preaching, right? We are successful. We're becoming successful. Sometimes people say we're not successful. Okay. We're doing pretty good for Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is an intense age. If you can just get through Kali Yuga without getting a mental disease or a mental, what do you call it? Trauma or problem or diagnosis, you're doing good. You're doing good. If you're not depressed, anxious, schizophrenic, bipolar, if you're just getting through life without being that, you're doing very well. Right? Kali Yuga is intense. So if one follows Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, and Kesava Maharaj was speaking about this morning as well. He was saying that. He said, you know, when he produces his content, like his online content, he said, I just try to inspire people to read the books because all the answers are in the books. Right? Everything's in Bhagavad Gita, everything's in Bhagavatam. Prabhupada says that. If you study Gita, you're not going to have problems in your life. Study it and actually imbibe it. What's the first teaching? You're not this body, right? So that just solved all your problems. Seriously. Well, that's the first teaching, right? If you understand that, all your problems are gone. All your problems are just because you identify with the body. Oh, I'm a male, I'm a female, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm Indian, I'm Australia. And it's like, that's your problem. You're not, like, you know, they just had all these big protests, you know, people attacking each other and things, even here in Melbourne, like people are attacking each other on the weekend. You know, and we're over there in Parkville having Radhashtami and everyone's happy, right? If you go 5 kilometres from where we were standing, people were attacking each other, right? This is insanity, right? Why? Not reading the Bhagavad Gita, right? This is the way the world is. So these books solve the problems. And why is Bhagavatam so important? Because it's in story form. So it's easy. You know, if you remember the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, so many lessons throughout the pastime. If you remember the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, interesting, if you look at Prabhupada's classes, which part of Bhagavatam does he give the most classes on? If you look at all these Bhagavatam recordings, which part does he speak the most on? Right? Prahlad Maharaj's teachings. Yeah, it's 7th canto. More classes than that. And one devotee wrote many years ago in their Vyasa Puja offering, they said Prabhupada's favorite devotee was Prahlad Maharaj. So, you know, maybe that's true. Favorite devotee was Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah, because he would speak on that part of the Bhagavatam, because there's so much. Even Bhurujan Prabhu was here one time on Nishringa Chaturdasi, he gave class. Normally we do Nishringa Chaturdasi, we speak on the pastime. Bhurujan Prabhu just spoke on Prahlad Maharaj's teachings. He just read the teachings, he just spoke on that, right? Because there's so much in the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. Right? And if you follow those teachings, you're not going to have problems in your life. You know, Prahlad Maharaj went to Hiranyakashipu. What did you learn? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. You all saw the movie? Hands up, you saw the movie? Everyone saw it? Yeah. Yeah, I went and saw it. Yeah. I didn't think, because in Geelong they stopped it, and I only went for 1 week, and I thought, Krishna. And then my wife said to me, let's go up to Werribee. So we went to Werribee and we saw it. I was like, ooh, good movie. Right? And then what's the final scene? Parashuram. What we're speaking on today. The axe. What's next? And now they're going to have big budget And these movies will come out much quicker. So, we can have the whole Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, Rama. We can be down the movies every week. Bhakti Sars and ecstasy, right? We make our prasadam popcorn, we go in there and we take it. We do the Harinam out the front. He's all over the world already. He's doing Harinam in front of the theatres and devotees going. It was very good. It was very good. For me, I'd heard the pastime so many times, but then visualizing it, so many things, it just helped me to, it wasn't exactly like it would have been, but many things, the concept was very interesting how they did it, and it made me understand and visualize many parts of it much easier now. And I got a much deeper understanding of Hiranyakashipu's psychology, because even a demon is not a complete demon. And we always do this, like, oh, he's a demon. Like Hitler, obviously he's a demon, but he had some good qualities, but he was a demon. And like when I saw Hiranyakashipu, that was the way he was depicted. Like, obviously he was a demon, he was terrible, but there was some goodness in there as well, right? And then, in Kali Yuga we say the demon, the devotee in the same body. So we just have to fan the devotee side, bring it out of people, bring the devotee out, because it's in there, everyone's a devotee ultimately. If they're being too demoniac, then we have to, right? We bring out the danda. Danda means stick. Hey, calm down, right? We have to do like that. But, if someone's well behaved, then they're a devotee, then, just fan it, just bring it out gradually. Because, the population are under the influence of the modes of nature, but they're devotees. Most people are good, most people. So, try to just bring it out of them. And it's challenging. Kali Yuga is challenging. And it's going to get more challenging. So if you want to take birth again, come back. You can come back and preach more if you want, but it's going to be very challenging. Like, selfishly, I'm actually saying to Krishna, please, maybe if you can take me back this time, it might be nice. I don't know if I can handle next time, but I don't know if I'm going to be qualified, so I might have to come back and keep preaching. But it's going to be very challenging as time goes by. So the Puranas, the stories, they're easier to digest. That's why Jiva Goswami says they're more important in the Kali Yuga. Right? They're more important because easier to remember a story and all the lessons in the story. That's why it's considered. So if we go back, because Prabhupada's speaking here about the three modes of nature, if we go back to the Gita and we study Gita, Gita is divided into three portions, right? So what are the three portions? Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, right? So we know the three portions. So many years ago, I think it was about 2000, about 25 years ago, I did a very deep study on studying the three modes of nature. So I did a very deep study, as deep as I can go, on the three modes of nature. And the last 6 chapters of the Gita, it's Jnana Yoga, right? And this is God himself speaking, right? Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna could have spoken anything. I've reflected on this. Karma Yoga, he speaks in the beginning. Bhakti Yoga, right? He speaks about pure devotional service, especially at the end of the 9th chapter, and then the beginning of the 10th chapter gives the Chatur Shloki. Krishna, when he got to the last 6 chapters, it's Jnana. He could have spoken on anything, really. But primarily, he speaks on the gunas, right? What's chapter 14 called? What's it called? Three modes of material nature, chapter 14. So it's all about the modes. Then chapter 16 is called what? Divine and demoniac natures. And once again, he divides it by the modes, right? Chapter 17 is what? Divisions of faith. And then what does he do? 3 modes. And beginning of chapter 18, which is the perfection of renunciation, where he speaks about, it's like a summary of the Gita. The beginning of the chapter is all about the modes. He keeps dividing it all. So it's really the last chapter, because Krishna actually says in the beginning of chapter 14, this is the supreme knowledge, right? These knowledge of these 3 modes. right? If you understand the modes and how they work in this world, it's very helpful to attain liberation from this world. You know, my Guru Maharaj once said, and it struck me, it was in 1996, I was listening to 95, 96. I was listening to one of his lectures, and he said, and it changed my life, he said, you cannot get out of this world until you realize you are in this world. Right? So if you don't understand how you're conditioned, you can't get out of the conditioning. Right? And a lot of the time we don't even understand. He said to me one time, my guru said in 91 or 92, I was only a new devotee, you know, I've only been devotee 2 or 3 years. He said to me, you have to understand when the modes are affecting you. I didn't even know what he was talking about. I didn't even know. Like, he said that to me, and I just looked at him like, you know, when devotees are new, they're just fresh and, you know, they look beautiful and they're young and they just like smile and everyone's happy and they're just blissful. You know, all they really care about is they get some sweet rice for breakfast or pizza in the modern day. You know, it's like, you know, everyone's just like, you know, and he said to me, he said, you have to understand when the modes are affecting you. I didn't even know what he was talking about. Now, I have some idea, right, about the modes, right? Goodness, passion, ignorance. So I can see when goodness is affecting me. I can see when passion is affecting me. I can see when ignorance is affecting me. Because Krishna explains in chapter 14, they're fighting for supremacy, right? Guna means rope. That's one. So it's like the 3 modes are like this, in a rope, 3 strands. And they're always entangling it, because they're all around us all the time. From when you get up in the morning, right, the 3 of them are there, right? Goodness is, that's why we do sadhana in the morning. Why? Because goodness, you know, your mind's clear. And as you get older, you fade as the day goes by. Has anyone noticed that? You noticed it already? Yeah? You notice? You start, yeah, okay, you know, we're not even that old yet. I'm only 56, like I'm not even that old. But I start fading. Like sometimes in the evening, I'm just like, oh God, I haven't got the energy. I do all my emails and stuff in the morning. Because sometimes I just haven't got the mental energy to deal with stuff in the evening sometimes. You know, you kind of like fade out. So you've got to understand when the modes are affecting you, right? You're clear in the morning, you can get stuff done. Then Rajas comes in the day, right? So then get like the work done, all the effective stuff. And then Tamas is there, so start winding down in the evening. You know, a lot of people now in Kali Yuga are having trouble sleeping because one of the main reasons, it can be physiological, it can be to do with the body also, but a lot of it's to do with the mind. People don't understand how to shut the mind off, and you have to do that in the evening. You have to start winding it down, right? You get off the phone. Like, it's dangerous to be on the phone. A lot of people are on the phone until the moment they go to sleep, right? They're just like there, okay, I'm tired. And first thing in the morning, oh, it's there. It's like, you know, so if you want to wind down, you've got to let your body wind down. So reading is good in the evening, because reading will help you to go off. Sometimes I read right up until I go to sleep, because it helps my mind begin to shut off. Oh, that's all. It's okay? Okay. So, it helps the mind to, maybe too loud, go down a bit, down a bit, down a bit, down a bit. It helps the mind, yeah, that's good. It helps the mind to shut off. So therefore, we have to understand when the modes are affecting us. Because if you don't understand when and how the modes are affecting you, it's very difficult to progress in spiritual life. So I did I studied the 3 modes very deeply. And the conclusion that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita and in Bhagavatam also is, because if you go to 3rd canto, Kapila gives he also gives a detailed analysis of the 3 modes. So you have to study it very carefully. And the conclusion is, goodness is most congenial or conducive to bhakti. to making progress in devotional service. If you read the beginning of Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, Prabhupada says this. Prabhupada says in the very beginning that we have to get into the mode of goodness. You have to practice bhakti from the mode of goodness, because then your progress will be much more powerful. Right? If you're too much affected by ignorance and passion, it's hard to make progress. You make progress, but it's difficult. Kapila Dev talks about devotional service in ignorance and devotional service in passion. They're there, you can do it, but it's challenging. Right? Much easier when you're in the mode of goodness. So we have to learn to live our lives in the mode of goodness, align ourselves with the mode of goodness. It's much easier to progress in bhakti. When you study Kapila Dev's teachings, he talks about devotional service in mode of ignorance and devotional service in mode of passion. There's one quality which is in both. It's very interesting. Do you remember what it was? The quality that he points out? It's in both. He gives it in passion, he gives it in ignorance. Becoming angry with other devotees. Right? If you become angry with other devotees, that means you're in passion or ignorance or both. If a devotee is always angry with the other devotees, you're not going to progress. It's going to be very slow. Long time. You have to make it easy for yourself. Right? So that's why you have to get into the mode of... So understand what the qualities are in the mode of goodness. Krishna breaks it all down in Bhagavad Gita. He says food in the mode of goodness. For us that means prasadam in the mode of goodness. Now all prasadam is transcendental, right? But different foodstuffs are in the three modes of nature. And Krishna says too oily, too spicy, too sour, too sweet. What does that sound like? Yeah, Rajagun. It's Rajagun. So you're taking prasadam, but too oily, too spicy, too much cheese, I'm just going to be open. Too much cheese, too much ghee, too much sugar. Right? It's going to have an effect on your consciousness. Understand that. Gurujan Prabhu said to me when I was 24, 25, when I was young, like you guys. How old are you? Yeah, same. So Gurujan Prabhu said to me, because I'm well known in ISKCON for taking a lot of prasadam. Right? Even now people talk about it. And I've reduced a lot because of my age, but a lot of prasadam. And he said, if you eat like that, it's going to affect you in your old age, right? And I notice now, now I have to be very careful. In morning I'll just eat like khichdi. And I look at devotees eating pizza and rasgulla and pakora and all these things, and I'm thinking, my God, I can't do it. I mean, I can do it, but then I'm going to feel like the rest of the day, you're going to feel like you're battling with ignorance, and then you become passionate. Sex desire comes up and you become passionate, right? And then it's like, all these. That's why Krishna says, eat in the mode of goodness. Prabhupada said, once a week have a feast. My feast was on Radhashtami. So Radhashtami, I said, cool, Radharani is giving mercy, I'm going to eat whatever I want, as much as I want. And I did, right? And it was good, right? But I can't eat like that every day. When you go to Goloka Vrindavan, you can eat like that every meal. That's what they do. You read the description, it's like, everyone's just like, because the body's spiritual, so everyone's just like, wow. It's so much fun. But if you do that here, right, then you're going to have a different effect. So Krishna says, eat in the mode of goodness. Because then that will keep consciousness in the mode of goodness. Right? And many things you have to do in the mode of goodness. He says determination. Right? He breaks down everything. So Prabhupada's saying here that the Varnashram system is based upon the modes of nature. And we should aim for the mode of goodness. even if you're a Shudra by nature, Burajam Prabhu was actually saying to me the other day, he said, which Varna are you? He said, which Varna are you? You know, because, you know, I'm a bit like, I'm kind of like Brahmana Kshatriya, right? So which one are you? And he said to me, I said, well, you know, there's elements of both. So he said, in Kali Yuga, it's like that. You know, you're kind of mixed in. Like, it's a bit of a mix like that. Yeah, you might have one or you might have two of the Varnas in your personality, your character, or you might have three, or you might even have four, right? But regardless of which Varna you kind of align with, right, whether it's Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, Sudra, you have to be in the mode of goodness in your lifestyle, right? It doesn't matter which of the Varnas you're in, even if you're like Shudra by nature, right? So your service is just washing pots, right? And that you'll say, like, I could not do that every day. Now, I can do it sometimes for Krishna, but if that was my only service, it would be difficult for me, right? But then someone might be doing that, like more like laboring work, like Shudra work, but he has to live in the mode of goodness, right? We have to understand this. You might be Vaishya, like very good at, if you're a Vaishya, you're good at making money. You know, we all know in our devotee community, if I say, who are the Vaishyas? I know everyone will give the same names, right? We all know who the Vaishya devotees are. But even though they're Vaishya, which means mixture of passion and ignorance, you know, you have to have passion and, you know. But even if you're that Varna by nature, you have to live in the mode of goodness. Otherwise you don't progress, right? You can't be in passion and ignorance. Because you see in the outside world, all the people are Vaishya Sudra, mostly. You know, people who are good at making money, but that's all they concentrate on, just passion, ignorance. It doesn't like raise up to higher consciousness, right? And if you're Kshatriya by nature, like manager, Kshatriya is a passion, goodness mix. Passion, goodness mix, right? So they have like Arjuna, it says in Mahabharata, Arjuna was as learned as the Brahmanas who would instruct him. Passion ignorant, because, you know, when he had to go away for a year, because he went into the armory when Yudhishthira, did I tell that story not long ago? Yeah, one of the classes was telling the story. Yeah, Arjuna went in when Yudhishthira was with Draupadi, and then he had to go for 1 year. So then what did he do? He got all the Brahmanas, he said, come on, we're going for a year, get all the books, we'll just go and study for a year. So he just walked off through the forest, they would stop talking, reading, discussing Krishna Katha, right? So he's living in the mode of goodness. He actually enjoyed it. You see, his father, Pandu Maharaj, you know, the father of the Pandavas, he conquered Bharata, right? Brought it under his control as the emperor, right? The Maharaj of Bharata, the emperor. And then what did he do? It says he went to the forest. And he said to the Brahmanas, you run the government, right? And if you need me, just call me. I'm 100 kilometers away. I'm sitting out there near the Himalaya. Right? I'm up there. Just come and get me. I'll come down and, you know, do everything if you need it. But he went to the forest, mode of goodness. He doesn't want to live in the palace in passion, right? So a devotee should naturally feel like that. It's interesting, Prabhupada was staying in Mumbai, and Prabhupada was in a life member's house, maybe Kartikeya Mahadeva, one of their life members. They're so rich, so wealthy. And Prabhupada was staying with them. And he went from Mumbai to Mayapur. And if you go to Mayapur back then, you know the hut at the front, Prabhupada's hut down the front, that's all there was. And when Prabhupada got there, he'd been living in like a palace in Mumbai, and he got there and it was just the hut. Prabhupada said, this is mode of goodness. He said, this is how a Brahmana likes to live. Right? And then Prabhupada taught everyone. Right? He was actually happy. And then New Vrindavan, you see when Prabhupada was in New Vrindavan in the very beginning, and then Prabhupada would go and he would just sit under the tree, and, you know, devotees were milking cows and growing vegetables, and getting their grains and crushing the grains and living. And Prabhupada stayed there for a few weeks. And he just sat under a tree and he was speaking on Bhagavatam. And he said, this is mode of goodness. This is how devotees should live. So we should live in the mode of goodness. Of course, we have to preach. That's why the temples are in the city. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur made the temples in the cities. Prabhupada made the temples in the cities. He also wanted farming projects to show an example, but he also had the temples in the cities. So if we're living in the temple in the city, we have to live in the mode of goodness, right? Which is not easy because nothing's easy in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is not it's not conducive for the mode of goodness, actually, Kali Yuga. No, you have to really work hard to live in the mode of goodness in Kali Yuga, because everyone's just, if you've got a job, you know, if you go to the Westgate Bridge now, it's 8:30, like there's a traffic jam, and the cars are moving like this across the bridge right now. And the thousands of people are pouring in to do what? To do jobs which we don't even need. And most of the jobs are going to be taken over in the next 5 years anyway. You know, there's going to be mass unemployment the next, 5 years because AI is going so fast now. Right? It's going to do everything. They're saying even you won't even need doctors anymore. Right? You just put in AI what your problem is and they'll tell you what to do, and it'll get to the point where you can even get the prescription. You know, just take this to the pharmacy and they'll give it to you and then take like that. Which I don't do much. I hardly ever take allopathic medicine, right? Once every 10 years or something. Right. But this is the way it can. Even practically nearly everything. Even they're saying accountants. AI will take all the accountant jobs. They'll take everything. So, and then what will people do? Eventually people will have to go back to the land to eat. So we have to live in the mode of goodness eventually. So Bhagavatam is teaching, Gita is teaching, and there's actually a statement in the 11th canto, a commentary on the Bhagavatam by one of the Acharyas. He's not a well-known Acharya. I can't remember his name, but he actually comments, when you put the two modes together, Sattva Gun and Vishuddha Sattva, pure goodness, and Sattva Gun, the goodness in this world, is that they look very similar. Right? Prabhupada would say that. You know, because Prabhupada was in Vishuddha Sattva, or pure goodness. But then if you look someone in this world who's in the mode of goodness, like a gentleman, the behavior is very similar. Right? But then one is also he's transcended, he's gone to God. But the other one's living. So we have to live in the mode of goodness, like that. And Prabhupada, one time they said to Prabhupada, how will I recognize your disciples? Prabhupada said they are perfect gentlemen. So it means ladies and gentlemen. We should be in the mode of goodness like that. TK? Okay. So this is what the Bhagavatam is teaching us, right? We have to live in the mode of goodness, right? If you study the Bhagavatam deeply and the mode of, and the Bhagavad Gita, this is the conclusion actually. The conclusion is the best way to practice bhakti is in the mode of goodness, because that will help you to transcend. Prabhupada said sattva guna is like a springboard to pure goodness, like that. So I'll stop here and we'll see if there's any questions or comments. Yeah.
This is a question from Sylvia.
Yeah, yeah.
Prabhu, you mentioned how the mode of goodness helps us in bhakti, but in schools we are encouraged to be competitive, to be ambitious and passionate. So does the mode of goodness take away that competitive spirit which is needed in today's day?
Read it again, because I was, yeah.
Prabhu, you mentioned how the mode of goodness helps us in bhakti, but in schools we are encouraged to be competitive, to be ambitious and passionate. So does the mode of goodness take away that competitive spirit which is needed in today's day?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's a very good question, Sivya. We have to concentrate on the mode of goodness. As you're saying, the schools are teaching us, the education system, the modern education system is teaching us to be in the mode of passion, which means to become successful, competitive, determined, and these are all good qualities, right? And we have to be like that. But in the mode of goodness, it means you don't do it at the expense of another person, In other words, you don't compete, because we have to compete in this world to be successful, but you don't compete to the point where it becomes detrimental to another person, or they suffer, or they become damaged, or they become, they are shortchanged by you becoming. Right? In the devotional world, in a devotional society, we try to look after everyone and bring everyone up. Right? So we can be competitive, we can try to do things better and better for Krishna, but as long as everyone else is being like that. So hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions? Yeah, what it means is sometimes you have to get into the mode of passion, for example, to get something done, right? But it's like Lord Brahma said he's the avatar, the guna avatar for passion. But he's not actually in the mode of passion. He's in the mode of goodness, right? Or Suddha Sattva. But he gets into the mode of passion because he has to create the universe. It's like when you're cooking for Janmashtami, like the devotees cook for 25,000 people. So you have to get in the mode of passion. If we all just sit there and go, oh, Prabhuji, can you pass the salt? Oh, Prabhuji, can you? No, you have to get in there. It's like, work. And devotees are going like, whoa, 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 whoa. But I noticed even though there was chaos, there was harmony in the chaos. Because, we were bringing the plates, so we had to go through them all the time. But everyone was like going like this. We're all conscious of each other. That's mode of goodness. We're in the mode of passion. We're using mode of passion because, come on, we've got to get things done. We have to get the offering done for Krishna. That's mode of passion. So we're using it, but we're not consumed by it, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's a tool. So you pick up a tool, like a hammer, and you go, like these guys are doing, right? But then you put the tool down, that's it. Like you see Prabhupada, sometimes Prabhupada become angry, but next moment, after he chastised, then he's just back, right? So even mode of ignorance, like anger is mode of ignorance, passion, ignorance, like that. Or sleep is mode of ignorance, right? But we use it for Krishna's service. Okay, we're going to sleep now. Prabhupada actually didn't sleep. He actually did not sleep. He rested, but he didn't sleep. We go into like a sleep, that's mode of ignorance, but we're using that so then we can do more service for Krishna. So. Shuddha Sattva is, you look at Prabhupada, and then you understand what is Shuddha Sattva. Shuddha Sattva means everything is for God, everything is for Krishna. So whatever you do, like Prabhupada would do so many things. Even one time, Prabhupada was in Mumbai, and there was some business going on. They were building the Juhu temple, so some business. And then there were some Sikh men that Prabhupada was doing business with to build the temple, and they had the turbans and big guys, like really big guys. And they were trying to get more money from Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was going to the train station. So he came out, and they were there. And they started yelling at him, "You haven't paid us enough. We said this." They're cheating, right? So Prabhupada got angry, and he went up to their face, and he put his finger in their face. He said, "You are cheating. You are cheating. You will not get 1 rupee more." And then he got in the car. So he got in the car, he was driving down the station. They got in the rickshaw and followed him. And they got all the way to the station. Prabhupada was getting onto the train, and they were still yelling at him. Prabhupada was yelling, "Hey, you don't cheat us," like that. Prabhupada got in the train, he's sitting there, and they were through the window. They said, "Prabhupada, you are there." And Prabhupada said, "Yeah." Right? And then the train went, and then Prabhupada just sat there, and he just got his beads. He just went, "Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare." Because Prabhupada wasn't in the mode of. But sometimes you have to be like that. Sometimes we have to be like that. Like we have to be ignorant or passion for Krishna, but then we'll go back. So Prabhupada is Shuddha Sattva, always for Krishna's pleasure. We just use the modes for service, that's all. Like Arjuna. Like when you get on the battlefield, you can't just go, no, you have to go, let's go, right? Mode of passion, right? On the battlefield. But it's for Krishna, so it's Shuddha Sattva, if it makes sense. Yeah. Shuddha Sattva means the modes are used in Krishna's service. You never forget Krishna. That's Shuddha Sattva. Never forget Krishna. Like Prabhupada never forgot Krishna. That's Shuddha Sattva. Make sense? Yeah. Any other point? Okay, thank you for coming. Srila Prabhupada ki? Jai. Govinda.